Okay, hi. Welcome, everybody. We're going to do a complete walkthrough of the Supertip system, and I want to show a few ways to use it, depending on what you're using. I know that a lot of people are using programs like Streamyard and stuff, and that adds a layer of complexity to it that not even CornDiff can figure out. So let's get into it. Yes, this is just a tutorial for the chat room watching. This is not a normal show. We will just be going over Supertip, how to sign up, how to set it up, and use it, because we have various levels of Luddites among us, and people need to know. We don't have formal documentation prepared yet, so this should help some people. When this is done, I'll trim it down if there's any extra stuff, and I will be bookmarking it so that people can come back to it and hopefully watch. We will probably have some technical difficulties because of the way I'm having to do this, like OBS Inception, 2 computers, 2 OBSs to be able to show you OBS and how to set it up. But hopefully this will work out and be interesting. If you do have any questions, I will be pretty active during this demonstration, so I probably won't be monitoring the chat much. But you can supertip, supertip.gg/NLO, and I'll try to answer any questions anybody may have. Let's just jump into it. Supertip is now wide open. No invite codes needed. Any creator can sign up. Streaming on any platform, it does not matter. This allows you to stream anywhere, from anywhere to anywhere. So hopefully that makes sense. The Supertip platform itself is agnostic. It doesn't depend on YouTube or Facebook or Rumble or Kick or Twitch or any of that. You can use it on any of that stuff. So that's going to be how it's going. So you just go to supertip.gg, and you're going to want to click sign up. If you've never logged in before, just click sign up here on the front page, and it's going to ask you to log in either with YouTube or with X. Those are the 2 ways we have to do it right now. So it doesn't, if you're streaming on Twitch, if you're streaming on Rumble, if you're streaming on Kick, any of those things, that's fine. But right now, to create an account, you do have to have a YouTube account or an X account. This isn't necessarily what you have to stream to. Just know that that's how you have to log in and create an account. Once you do that, you'll log in here. If you have multiple Google accounts, it'll ask you to select one. Once you select one, you'll come to this screen, sign up to supertip.gg. This is a demo account that I've made. So I've never, ever, ever accessed the platform with this account. And once you do that, it'll just give you some information. Like if you ever logged in with Google to anything, this is what you will find. Then you're prompted with a very lengthy terms of service, Supertip terms of services agreement. You must scroll to the bottom in order to agree. That's great. We're going to call this channel Supertip Demo. And then it's going to ask you to create a show tag. What your show tag is basically the abbreviation for your show that gets shown to that will become your Supertip URL. So supertip.gg/NLO, supertip.gg/pretty, supertip/gg/corndiff, whatever you want your show URL to be. So because it's a demo, we'll just call it demo. And then it's asking for your show URL. So this would be whatever the URL is of where you broadcast. This is just for our approval processes. Every account, every applicant that applies to get on the Supertip platform is approved. The only thing we do not allow is adult creators, gambling creators, people like that. They're not allowed by Stripe's terms of service. So we have to agree to that. But mine would be youtube.com/@Supertip _GG. That's the account I just created. Support email address where viewers can contact you for support. This is an email address that will be made public on your tip page. If anybody has a problem with a tip they sent in, if anybody needs to contact your show, this is for the viewers of your show. This will be a public email address where they can get a hold of you. So you can write something like help@myshowdomain.com, whatever that may be. That's not a real address, so I should probably put a real address in. Let's put Patrick at nobody likes onions.com just to make it real. Again, that'll be a public address. It'll be made public. Then it's going to ask you for some visual assets. These are to help customize your tip page. This will help pretty up your tip page. These are not required. Both of these are optional. So we can skip this for now. Doesn't really matter. Continue to show setup. The next page will be brought to is to connect your show and your Supertip account to the Stripe platform. This is how we pay you instantly when someone sends you a tip. So the first thing you'll do is hit connect to Stripe. Again, I'm going to blur this, but after a second, you will be taken to stripe.com. If you already have a Stripe account that you use for other things, feel free to use that. If you need to create a new Stripe account, it'll help walk you through that simply. And again, I'm just not showing my Stripe information here. Activate Authenticator. Got a Touch ID. It says Supertip.gg partners with Stripe for secure payments. Once I'm logged in, it presents me with my available Stripe accounts if I have more than one under my login, which of course I do. Would you like to link this account to one of your existing businesses on Stripe? I would. I really actually would. So I'm going to select that, the appropriate one. And again, you'll get these options for your Stripe account. It doesn't really matter. Continue linking accounts. This can't be undone. Yes. Processing. We need to know how to collect sales tax. Not right now. Then it's going to ask to review and submit this information. So I'm looking at it all. It has my bank account details here where I'm going to get paid out. Again, if you don't have a Stripe account, it'll walk you through creating all this and collecting this information. Then I'm hitting agree and submit. That's processing. Thanks for submitting. You'll be redirected back to Supertip. Once you come back to Supertip, you'll probably, most likely, not always, get a screen that says something like this. Payment processing setup. You're almost ready to activate your Supertip demo. To activate your show's Supertip demo, you need to complete your Stripe payment setup. And you might say to yourself, I just completed my Stripe payment setup. Sometimes it just takes a minute for our system to talk to Stripe system and connect. Might take a few minutes. Sometimes, because Stripe is very finicky, you will have to click this button that says resume Stripe setup. Stripe might want some more information. So I click that. I'll be taken back to Stripe again. This is a limitation of Stripe. I'm already logged in, so it should just pop up with anything it needs me to complete. Nope, just says review and confirm again. It's the same information. Sometimes it just takes a couple of minutes for their servers to talk to our servers and connect these accounts. Okay, done. So now this time when I came back, it says awaiting approval, Supertip demo. Your show setup is complete and has been submitted for admin approval. Great work. You've successfully connected your Stripe account, and your show's Supertip demo is now being reviewed by our admin team. We're usually pretty quick about this. to approve shows. So all you have to do is wait. You should receive an email that tells you your setup is complete and your pending review. And if you come back to, you can come back to this site at any time, just relog in or refresh the page. And now you're in. So once your show gets approved, you'll get another email telling you you're active now. And then you'll be taken straight to the Supertip panel, which looks like this. If you've never seen the Supertip back end, this is what it looks like. We take the liberty of creating a couple demo super tips for you, a voice super tip and a text super tip. And this can be very overwhelming. I understand there's a lot of stuff going on here on this page, but we're going to walk through how to set it all up. We're going to walk through all the settings and things that you need to configure. You don't have to configure anything, but there's a lot of settings. There's a lot of information, and I want to walk you through every single bit of it so that you understand how it works. Somebody in the chat asked, is Stripe the only payment processor we work with right now? Yes. In the future, we hope to add other payment processors and even possibly direct payment from Supertip. But right now, you do have to have a Stripe account. Setting up a Stripe account is free. It's akin to PayPal or something like that. Very easy, very quick to set up, link to your bank, and that's how you get paid out through the Supertip platform. So basically, this is what it looks like. You have unplayed tips here. You have played tips here. And then you have some filters. This is a voice tip filter. If you don't want to see voice tips, you can turn that off. Your voice tips will disappear. If you don't want to see text tips, you can turn that off. Your text tips will disappear. And certain accounts, and in the future, you'll be able to get YouTube super chats. And that's what this filter is here. This filter is to see hidden super tips. So say there's a super tip you don't want to see. You can actually click this eye right here, and that will hide the super tip. And if you ever want to see hidden super tips, you can toggle this, and then you can go back over to the eye and unhide the super tip, and that'll bring it back. A lot of people hide every super tip after they've played it. It's up to you. These are just options to help you filter this list and figure it out. You can also search here for super tips. This is any super tip you've ever received in the past or future, whether it's on your unplayed tab or your played tab. If you just search for something here, like let me search for text, the list will immediately filter any super tip you've received with that word in it. Clear it out. They all come back. Okay? But before we get started, I'll walk you through these settings and show you how some of this stuff works. Under settings, we have 4 different sub-tabs here for settings. Here you see your show name, which you can change. That's publicly configurable. Then whatever you want to call your show. Here's that show support email that I talked about. Default tip type. This is basically when people go to your tip page, supertip.gg/demo. Do you want it to default to text tips or to voice tips? There is a light mode and a dark mode, by the way, up here. So you can kind of do whatever you want. I don't want to get blinded like that. Okay, default tip type, voice tip or text tip. I'd like to go to text tip. And then you have some options here. Do you want to allow anonymous tips or do you want people to have to log in? You can turn that on or off. Skip the queue. Do you want people to be able to interrupt your show with a voice tip that they send in immediately when they send it? And automatically skip queue. An example for something like this would be if you do a live stream where you don't have the use of your hands or you're driving or something like that, and you want voice tips only, you would turn on skip queue and automatically skip queue. And then as soon as a voice tip gets sent in, it will play and display on your screen. So if you were driving along, it's not safe to be looking at your screen and operating when you put tips up. You can turn these on, turn text tips off, and voice tips will automatically play. Then we come to the overlay. We'll get back to that in just a second. Here's the thing that we saw on Signup, tip page customization. This is how you're going to control what this page looks like for your users. Okay. So you can drop a banner image here. Let me blur this just in case it shows some garbage. All right. So I have some images here in a folder. Let's choose Supertip background image. This will allow you to crop this in any way you see fit. So you can kind of select what you want that to be there and hit apply crop. Okay. And then we go to this one and you can select a square image for your show logo. Now I got those in there. Hit save. And then you can customize the colors and shapes you want for your tip page particle effects. What that means is basically this confetti in the background. You can control what colors you want that to be. You can control what shape you want that to be. So let's say I want some gold and aqua. Save that theme. And now that I've uploaded images and saved those and customized what color I want that confetti to be, if I reload this page, boom. Now my background's there, my logo for my show is there, and I have aqua and gold confetti on this tip page. Now you might notice here that I've been directed to a text tip, and there is no option to do a voice tip. The reason for that we'll get to in just a minute. Here's QR code customization. This allows you to put the QR code for your show on your screen. There's a lot of options here for controlling what you want this QR code to look like. Depending on the background of your show, you might want this to be different colors. Let's say I like purple. What I can do is put my own gradients and colors in there. If I'd like solid colors, gradients, I can style this. Do I want square dots, circle dots, all this kind of stuff? You can really tweak exactly how you want this to be. You can decide whether or not you want your text to appear on there. You can decide whether or not you want a transparent background or a solid background. You can get this to look any way you want. You can decide whether or not you want the text underneath it, the URL, or you just want a QR code. And most importantly, you can adjust whether or not you want this QR code to appear on your overlay. And if you do want it to appear on your overlay, you can control which corner you'd like it to appear in. Top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. And just save those settings when you're done. And then we'll get into the overlay and how this works for configuring your show. How do you get the super tips to show up on your show? That's the last thing we're going to do. I want to walk through these configuration options first for the tips. So the next sub tab under settings is text tips. You can enable text tips or disable text tips. This is instant. So if you turn this off and someone were to go to your tip page, then tips not available. Supertip demo is not accepting tips at this time. If I turn this back on, give it a beat. And now text tips are back on. I think it waits 3 seconds before it saves it. Minimum text tip. How much is the least amount you want to accept for a text tip? Our system minimum is 3. If you try to change this to 2, it will not allow you to do that. If I refresh this page, it'll just be reset back to 3. But you can make this anything you want. These are toggle arrows. So you can make this anything that you want. We suggest leaving it at $3. And then you have text display settings. So this is an example super tip, text to super tip. You can hide the avatar. You can hide the name. You can hide the amount. This will hide the $0 tip amount. If like you've seen me super tip shows where it's $0, this won't show that $0 amount. And this allow text pseudonyms is a feature where if you turn that on the tip page, this allows you to type whatever you want in for a name here. So that allows your viewers to put in a text pseudonym and name themselves anything they want to be named. You can turn that on or off. For voice tips, you have the same options here. Enable voice tips, disable voice tips. You might say, Patrick, voice tips are enabled. How come we're not seeing that show up on the tip page? Because no voices are selected. So when you first sign up for a Supertip account, there will be our default voices. We have 10 of them here. You can turn them on. You can turn them off. So I'll turn all these voices on. Once I've done that and I have voices that are on, now when I refresh the tip page, there's a voice tip option, and it'll show the speakers that I've enabled.
Ladies and gentlemen, take your seats. This is about to get good.
So that's basically how you control. Do you want voice tips? Do you want text tips? And again, on the main page, you can choose what you want your default to be, voice tip or text tip. This is pricing stuff. So basically, additional speaker cost. How much for each voice speaker do you want to charge? Minimum voice tip is set to $5. You can't go below that, but you can raise it. Skip queue cost. How much does it cost to skip the queue? You can set that to anything you want. To explain this additional speaker cost, you have this setting here, maximum speakers per tip. So if I were to change maximum speakers per tip to 2, what that's going to do is over here on the tip page, if I add one speaker who says something, add that to the tip, add another speaker that says something, add that to the tip. I set it maximum to 2, so it will not allow me to add another one. But that's how you control that. We call them speakers. So maximum speakers per tip, the default is 5. And this additional speaker cost is how much are we charging them per speaker. So if they have one person speaking in the tip, 2 people speaking in the tip, 3 people speaking in the tip, it'll add this over and over and over again. Character cost allows you to charge more the more they type. We get a lot of shows where people type really, really long things. And you want to kind of control that on your show. So you can charge more per character that they type. And we have 5 levels of that. Default is free. Maximum characters per speaker. This is also how you can control how long these messages can be. I know some creators put this on 100. I think that's kind of limiting. It looks like it defaults to 200. You can choose 150, 250, or 300, and that will control how much text they can type per speaker, if that makes sense. Then you have the way that the Supertip display is the same options here. Hide the avatar. This is the avatar for the user who sent in the Supertip, not the head. You can disable the speaker head animation, and that means the speaker head will not move as it talks. You can also completely hide the speaker head. You can hide the name. You can hide the amount. You can show the speaker name. You can allow voice pseudonyms. That's the same thing we just talked about, where you can type in any name you want for the tipper. And then down here is where you can actually create your own voices for the Supertip platform. We're not going to do that here today, but when you sign up, you will get 3 credits. It'll allow you to create 3 custom voices for your show. The way you do that is very, very easy. You come in here, you give your speaker a name. You say, I want this to be Howard Stern. You pick a picture for the head for that person, and you upload a 5 to 10 minute sample, no bigger than 10 megabytes, MP3, WAV, whatever you want to do. Oh, wait, MP3 only we changed it to, looks like. See, I don't even know my own thing. Upload an MP3, 5 to 10 minutes long of the person talking, and then you just click, I'm in the way of it, but there's a save button down there. And then you'll get finer granular control. You can control the speed of the voice. You can dial in the stability, the similarity to the original voice, settings like that, which will allow you to dial it in and get it to sound as much like the original person as you want. Like I said, we're not going to be creating that today, but that's how you do that. When you create a voice, you'll use one of your credits. When you delete a voice, you will get the credit back. So you can have 3 custom voices on the Supertip platform. They will appear here under your speaker management. You can toggle them on and off, just like anything else. Payments, this is basically just going to show you your Stripe account that is connected, and it's going to allow you to disconnect this Stripe account, connect a different Stripe account if you want, be able to manage that in that way. All right, how do we get this to show up on our show? Oh, should we do moderation first? This is pretty granular. You get a lot of people complaining when they super tip shows that they get a message that this tip can't be sent because it contains violence or sexual content or what do we have? Hate speech and self-harm. Creators can use these sliders to dial in exactly how tolerant they want the system to be. Going to the right allows more. Basically, you're selecting which level you want to block, that and above. I say to turn these all the way up because it's all AI filtered, so sometimes it blocks some pretty mild stuff. So you can turn these all the way up to level 7. Save those moderation levels. You can also create a blacklist. This will allow you to go in here and either phonetically or word match things you do not want to be allowed in tips. Your address, your dad's name. And you can turn on phonetic matching for things like if there's a slur and you don't want people to be able to get around that slur by spelling it differently or things like that. Turn on phonetic match. You can create these word lists and be able to block this stuff. We don't need to do that right now. So we'll delete that blacklist, but that's how you can moderate your stream. Block spam messages was the first setting up here at the top. It's on by default. This filters messages that contain things like non-word text, words that are too long, and repeating the same word over and over and over. So someone just keeps sending in the same word over and over and over, or typing gibberish or things like that. This blocks that. You can always turn it off. It's on by default for every account. We haven't had any problems with this setting at all. So there you go. So here's the panel. Here's our 2 sample tips that we've received. And let's talk about the overlay, because this is how you connect whatever you're streaming on to the platform. When you sign up, you'll get an overlay URL. This is hidden by default. You can unhide that. You can show it. The reason we hide it is in case you're streaming on a show like this and you don't want people to see the password. The password is the thing right here at the end, and that's the private information. But basically, the URL consists of supertip.gg/admin/demo, which is your show tag, /overlay, and your password. The reason for the password, there's nothing super secure about this URL. There's nothing that if this were to leak out can really harm you in any way. But making this private and requiring a password basically it makes sure nobody else can add your overlay that shows your tips to another show or another instance of OBS or StreamYard or something like that. If you ever need to, if this ever leaks out or somebody's using it that you don't want to, you can regenerate the URL. Keep in mind, if you do regenerate the URL, it will regenerate a new password here, and you will need to update your overlay in whatever streaming software you use in order to be able to use that. There's also a thing here that says drag and drop this into OBS to automatically create a source for the Supertip overlay. So I have an instance of OBS running here. This is a different camera on a different computer than you're seeing me down here in the corner. But this is a brand new, fresh profile in OBS. I've created a scene here under scenes. If you're not familiar with OBS, I've added one thing to the scene. That's my camera. You can turn it on and off so you can see that. So all I have in this scene is myself. I'm sitting here talking. Now, it's easy with OBS because you can just drag and drop this like it says. I'll show you how to manually do it. You want to copy this URL, hit the copy button or manually copy it out of there. Go down to this plus on your sources in OBS. You want to add a browser source. You can name this anything you want. We'll call it Supertip. Once you copy this URL into the URL space, you want to change the width of this to 1920. You want to change the height to 1080. You want to select the box that says Control Audio via OBS. And if you ever find your overlay is not working, we suggest you come in here and hit Refresh Cache of Current Page. You can do that at any time by just double clicking on the Supertip browser source in the sources list. Scroll down here and hit refresh. That'll fix a lot of problems sometimes if things aren't working correct. So now we have the Supertip overlay. We have my camera. We should be able to play Supertips in OBS now by just clicking on them in the panel. So we can bring up the panel here. Side by side with OBS. Let me shrink this down so you can see both. And now if I click this, if I click play on this demo voice tip.
Welcome to Supertip. Supertip demo. This is a sample voice tip.
What a nerd. I think it does a random voice when it creates these.
Welcome to Supertip. Supertip demo. This is a sample voice tip.
If you can notice, while I'm playing the tip, it appears up here in this. We call this the play bar. This is how you control when a tip is playing.
Welcome to Supertip.
If I click pause right here, it pauses the Supertip on the screen. At the point I paused it, here's a preview of the character and what they're saying. I can unpause this at any time.
Supertip demo.
Repause it. I can dismiss it by clicking the X at any time. And that's basically how you control that. You can also do it from the play button here.
Welcome to Supertip.
I can pause it down here. Continue playing.
Demo. This is a sample voice tip.
You see I still have one unplayed here, so I can go back to unplayed. This is the text tip. When you play a text tip, it will stay on the screen until you dismiss it. You can dismiss it either with the X next to the tip or the X up here on the play bar. But that will appear on the overlay here until you let it go by dismissing it. Another thing you can do is if you have a producer or somebody controlling your super tips in another location, because this doesn't have to be done on the same computer. You can do it on a phone. You can do it on a tablet. You can do it on another computer in another location across the world. If someone has access to your Supertip panel, they can control this, and whenever they play it, it will pop up on your overlay. It doesn't matter where it is. Moody could log into this and push play right now from New Zealand, and they would pop up on the screen and play. If you have something like that, where you have a producer in another location who is running your show or helping you by putting these things up, they can listen locally on their device and preview a voice super tip. So let's say I'm not sure what this super tip is going to say. It might be really long, in which case it might scroll down off the screen. There'll be a show more button here, or show less if you want to extend it and see the whole tip. But if the producer, like if Moody in New Zealand wanted to listen to this super tip without it playing on my show and showing up on my screen, he can click these headphones here for a preview.
Welcome to Supertip. Supertip demo. This is a sample voice tip.
And play it to himself in New Zealand. If you notice, it didn't show up on my screen like it does when I play it.
Welcome to Supertip demo. This is a sample voice tip.
If I want to, I can pin a super tip with this button here. When it turns red, this super tip is pinned, no matter what other super tips come in, and you can do this on either list, unplayed or played. That super tip will stay at the top. You can pin multiple super tips to the top if you want. You can unpin them easily as well. You can also reorder the super tips based on when they were played, ascending or descending, and the same for unplayed. If you ever want to mark a super tip as unplayed, just click this open envelope, and that will move them back to the unplayed tab. If you ever wanted to play something later or remember something like that. And again, you can control the order ascending or descending by just toggling the received column. The last thing, I guess, that just offers a little more granular control, you'll see AV checkboxes here. These are going to come in more handy in future types of tips that we create, but this stands for audio and visual. Basically, you can control one or the other playing on the overlay. Let's say you only wanted the visual of this super tip to play for some reason. Uncheck the audio box. You see it playing, but there's no sound because we've unchecked the audio box. It works the other way around as well. If I uncheck the visual box and hit play.
Welcome to Supertip demo. This is a sample voice tip.
We have a bug, Moody. We have a bug. But that is the functionality there. Other things you can control with the overlay, if you remember from this panel. If I scroll down here to the QR code customization, there was an option to display this on the overlay. So I can come into the overlay. Let's say I want my QR code to be in the top right. I can select that, hit save, and immediately my QR code will appear in the top right. You cannot see it because it's purple and ugly, but we can fix that by going back and changing the styling on it. Again, you get a ton of control with what you want this to look like. We do that, hit save. It'll immediately change in your overlay to white. And now I have the QR code there. Other options. These are quick toggles available to you while you're broadcasting to let you control things like turning text tips on and off, turning voice tips on and off, skip the cue on and off. Let's say you're getting into a serious segment, you don't want any interruptions. You can go ahead and quickly toggle skip the cue off. Here's that automatically skip cue button and anonymous tips. Over here we have an earnings summary. Again, this is blurred out by default. If I click show earnings, this will show you how many total super tips you've ever received, the average value per super tip. Both of those were demo free super tips. So you've received 2, you've made 0 money. This is your all-time super tip earnings. Here's how much you've made in the last week, and here's how much you've made in the last 24 hours. You can hide or show this entire section if you want to just shrink your screen. This is super helpful on mobile or on a tablet where your screen real estate is more of a premium. So you can collapse that. But that's pretty much it. To get set up on OBS, it's as easy as that. You link this to your YouTube, start streaming, and it's simply one source. You put your overlay URL in there, and you're good to go. And you just have to monitor the super tips while you're doing your show. We do put the number of super tips in the tab waiting for you here. So if you have one unplayed, it'll show one up there. Sometimes Chrome puts tabs to sleep when they're in the background. So if you were to switch to something else, like I had my Supertip YouTube account that I created earlier over here. If I was on this page for a long time, Chrome, to conserve energy might put this panel to sleep, but you can always refresh it. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of playing something. The panel will always show you what's currently happening on your overlay. So if I have this super tip up, as you can see on the screen here, and I refresh this page, it doesn't interrupt the overlay at all. That super tip stays up, and when the panel loads, you'll still see that super tip up, and you can dismiss it easily. Quickly, how polls work. If you want to create a poll here, you can ask a question. What's better? And then you can put in options like hot dogs or burgers. Put in as many options as you want. You can choose whether you want to measure the results by vote count, or the number of tips you receive with the votes, or by money. So if someone who chooses hot dogs gives $10 and someone chooses burgers gives $5, hot dog will win. If 4 people who choose hot dog give $2 and one person who says burgers gives $10, burgers will win. You can control how you want the poll results to be measured. You create the poll will turn on. You can turn the poll on and off here with this toggle. You can change how the votes are measured here, dollars or votes. And if you ever want to show the results of the poll on your panel, you can just toggle this I button, and that'll put the poll results up on your screen. This uses the same color particles that you have on your tip page as a background. And if you get any super tips or want to show any super tips while the poll results are on the screen, that works fine too. You can just do that. If you have more options, these will shrink down. They won't get in the way of the super tip here at the bottom. Whenever you want to hide it, just toggle it off. You'll go back here to your page. Now, what about the people who don't use OBS? All right, let's get into more advanced setups with Streamyard and EVmux. I recommend EVmux. If you want to be one of these streamers who's not technical and you want this to be as easy as possible, sign up for EVmux. That's EVmux.com. EVmux.com. You will need to create a pro account on there. You will need to pay for the pro version of EVmux, but this is the easiest way in the world to run a setup where you can send the link to other people to come on your show and have a note, like basically like training wheels set up like StreamYard, but EVmux has some features that StreamYard doesn't have, which make this extremely easy to do. EVmux looks like this. You have an account. You go into your studio here. You can select your microphone and your camera from this. You enter your studio. Give it a second to load up. Oh, look what you can do now. So this is EVmux. It works very similarly to StreamYard, but also similarly to OBS. So here's your canvas or your scene. We have it here. And all you have to do to add super tip to an EVmux scene is add new layer, web source, and that adds it to your screen. Now, you'll want to go in here to settings for your web source. 1920 by 1080 is correct. You can go back to your overlay settings here. You want to copy the URL again. Put the URL in here. (1920 by 1080), same as OBS. You can refresh the web source, but that is it. You're done. You can drag this and resize it to the size of the scene. The reason you're seeing 2 QR codes is because it's using OBS virtual camera, which also has the overlay. So I'm going to go back to OBS and turn that off so you get more of an idea of what this looks like. So there you go. So that's what, when you use EVmux, this is what it'll look like. You had your camera, which we have here, and you have your web source here. The only thing you have to make sure of is that your web source is above your camera. If my camera is on top and my web source is behind it, I'm going to be on top of the super tips. So you just drag web source up to the top. There you go. And if we can quickly do this from the panel, played tips.
Welcome to Supertip. Supertip demo. This is a sample voice tip.
That's it. That's it. This is the easiest. If you want to use Supertip and you want to be able to have 19 people on the screen and send people the link, this is it. Use EVmux. It's that easy. It's that easy. It'll take you some getting used to their system here, but you can add as many scenes as you want, configure them how you want, bring in new people, send the link to people, etc., etc. But that's the easiest setup of Supertip for somebody who isn't technical. That's the easiest way to do it. When we get into StreamYard, it gets far more complicated. It's way more complicated to do on StreamYard. But that's literally it for EVmux. So that's why we recommend EVmux. We are talking to the people at EVmux and even working on an integration so that hopefully super tips will appear in line with the comments for your show that you can put up on the screen. So super tips will just appear in here, so you don't even have to have the panel up. You'll be able to connect your Supertip account to EVmux. So again, if you want dead simple and you're not an OBS user and you want to do the send the link thing, EVmux. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. Now we have to do StreamYard. Ooh. Ooh. This is where the headaches begin. For StreamYard, you will also need to run OBS. For StreamYard, you also need to run OBS. And boy, oh boy, does it get tricky. The easiest route is if you have a Rodecaster or something like that, where your system audio is played out to the Rodecaster and can come back in to OBS. But basically, here's how you want to do it. You want to download and install OBS. It's free. Configure the Supertip overlay, just like we did before here. You want to turn on your virtual camera. Boom. Go over to Chrome. You want to make sure that you have OBS virtual camera selected. Use Chrome. Use Chrome for all this stuff. And then again, you want to pick Rodecaster Chat. Rodecaster Pro Chat for these. I imagine maybe, yeah, see now the audio is working on this. We're not mirroring the camera now. Okay, perfect. So now we can enter the studio. Now I can add myself to the stage. Much better. Okay. So don't use Safari. And now you'll have your tips. Basically, when I hit play on this.
Welcome to Supertip. Supertip demo. This is a sample voice tip.
Okay. So because we're routing the audio out to the Rodecaster and back in, you don't need to play it on OBS. So you can mute this. Or Like before, when I went in here to these advanced settings, if you never changed that in the first place to monitor only, you won't have to worry about it. So before, if you're on OBS and you want to turn it on for monitor, you can. If you don't have to. Now it should be fine.
Welcome to Supertip. Supertip demo. This is a sample voice tip.
So what this is doing is playing this on the overlay we set up in OBS, and then it's using the virtual camera from OBS in Streamyard. So it's playing in both places.
Welcome to Supertip. Supertip demo. This is a sample voice tip.
Now, you see how it's hidden behind the Hackamania name there? So let me turn on a text tip so we can see the tip on the screen. And then you can simply grab the super tip layer and drag that up. You can put it anywhere you want on the screen. Now, of course, it's going to move your QR code as well. But you can always go in and turn that off. So now I can move this up, over, resize it so they don't go off the screen. And they'll look like that in StreamYard. So now it's above that. Wherever you put it on OBS, since it's using that virtual camera from there, it'll allow you to reposition it. I always tell you to lock it when you're done so you don't accidentally drag it or change the settings. But that's pretty much it. If you have a Rodecaster. If you don't have a Rodecaster and you have like a USB microphone going into your computer that you use for this kind of a thing, you're opening up a whole new world of hell. You need to go get a plugin called VB Cable, a virtual audio device. I'm not doing this on this show. I'm not doing this on this show because the alternative to all this, use OBS, drag it up, move it around, reposition stuff. The alternative to doing all of that is use EVmux. Using EVmux is easier to set up than OBS. And for StreamYard, you have to set up OBS in special ways and configure StreamYard in special ways. You don't want this world of hurt. Use EVmux, EVmux.com. We are going to try to get a discount code for you. But you can simplify your entire life by doing that. If you want to go this route, if you do not have a Rodecaster that you route your audio through and back into your computer, you will download this application, VB Cable Virtual Audio Device. This is at vb-audio.com. You will install this. This will create some virtual audio devices on your computer. What you then need to do is go into the settings in OBS, go to audio, and change the audio monitor or the audio out, the monitoring device, to the VB Cable Virtual Audio Device. You will change this to the VB Cable Virtual Audio Device. And then in StreamYard, you will have to go into your audio settings here and you will select from this list, your microphone is the VB Cable Virtual Audio Device. It's another nightmare that you don't want to get involved in. This is super advanced. This is why people like Corn Diff have given up on super tips. They can't figure it out. This is what causes all the issues. And it's difficult for people, particularly in the Dabbleverse, to figure out, because Dabbleverse streamers particularly think that StreamYard is how you live stream. Moody says this explanation isn't quite right. Don't do it to yourself. Yeah, I'm not even explaining it correctly. I'm not. Basically, in the same vein that you're taking your OBS virtual camera, which in comparison makes it very simple to take the video from OBS and put it into StreamYard by selecting OBS virtual camera. You want to also do the same thing with audio. You want to make all the audio from your microphone and all the audio from Supertips, and you want to take all the audio from your microphone and put it into OBS, couple that with your Supertip audio, and then you want to output that to the virtual device that you then select in StreamYard. You'll drive yourself nuts. You'll drive yourself nuts doing it. Or you can add a web source layer to EVmux and be done. You can copy and paste one URL to EVmux and you're done. That, like, no OBS, no virtual audio routing, no Rodecaster audio routing. It's a dream. The easiest way to use this is EVmux. If you're a normal streamer, you already use OBS and you've got this. But again, Dabbleverse, particularly people in the Dabbleverse, think StreamYard is how you stream. So this is why a lot of Dabbleverse streamers will never figure this out, when all you really have to do is switch to EVmux, like Pat Dixon uses, like Karmic uses. Once you make that switch, it's over. It's over. Moody says, yeah, the USB mic has a delay on it too, so you'll not be able to speak if you set it up wrong. Yeah, it's just it's a world of hurt. StreamYard is not the best way to do this. There's another world where if you want to set this up kind of how Carl does it, and again, I'm not going to get into it basically with the audio, but for people who want to know how Carl does it, where the tips don't appear necessarily in the person's box in StreamYard, and they appear at the bottom like regular super chats. That's easy to do. I'm going to add an image source here. Basically, you want to browse for an image. I just don't want to show you my folders in case I'm in my naughty place. I'm going to choose this plain background image just for an example. I'm going to turn off my camera, which is my virtual or my video capture device. I'm just going to turn that off. Now I only have a background image and super tips on, and those are going through my OBS virtual camera. So that's what you see here. And then you can add in another camera, extra camera. You have to have a higher tier StreamYard account for this. But now I can select my actual camera and add that. And then when I play a super tip, how it works now is it will put it on this background camera. Again, figure out how to get rid of this Hackamania badge. I'm just doing this for demo purposes. But this isn't good either, right? This isn't what we want either. So you have to create custom scenes or custom layouts here where you hold on, how do we do it? Let me remove that. Okay. Yeah, we create a custom scene, you hit add item, and then you put your camera slot 1. So we're making the OBS virtual camera the back. You see how fucking insane StreamYard is? Don't use StreamYard. This is what you have to do. Then you add another item, which is a camera slot here. And you can like do that like that. And then you can save this as Supertip solo, whatever. And now when I add my cameras to the stage, the background image will be my OBS virtual camera, and my second camera will be this. And then I select this scene, Supertip solo. And then, of course, you can go back to your OBS and unlock the Supertip layer and drag this down to where you want it to be and go check it over here and make sure it's in the right place. You can resize this window if you need more room and put that here and go back over here and move this up and go back here. And like, you can play with this all day. Or, and hear me out, you could use EVmux and copy and paste one line. So you decide, I guess. You decide. But this is highly technical to route the audio. It's not highly technical, but for Overdose people, it's highly technical. Or for Dabbleverse people, it's highly technical. Yeah. Annie Orion, turn off nameplate, right side style under theme. Hold on. Right side. Okay, let's see. Style under theme. Show display names. Boom. Okay, there we go. So now we can move this back down to the bottom. Or even better yet, reset the transform. And that's there. And then you can go back into your scene here, make yourself a little bigger. So that's how you can do that. That's how Carl does it. And this background image that's static blue, you can put anything you want here. It doesn't have to be this image. This can be a video. This can be a looping animation, whatever you want. Whatever you want your background to be over here. It's going to use OBS virtual camera in this one, and then your actual camera on the other one. But in order to use 2 cameras like this in StreamYard, you have to have a higher tier account. I don't know how much that is. It's a nightmare. The main point of this stream was to walk people through all the options and how to configure stuff in Supertip. Just explaining all these options because these settings there's a lot of them. They do a lot of things. And I wanted you to understand it and know how they work. Moderation. That's the walkthrough on that. Because we've got a lot of people who do StreamYard shows signing up for Supertip, and they're like, how do I get them on my screen? And the simple answer, like, I'm not even lying. I'm not trying to be a smart ass. The simple answer is if you walk around with your phone and stream on StreamYard, don't do this. If you're a live streamer, if you're a Twitch streamer, you already know OBS. If you're not in the Dabbleverse and stream, you probably already use OBS. StreamYard is a very, like, people outside the Dabbleverse, I'd never heard of StreamYard until I got in the Dabbleverse. It's a very we're working on documentation to explain all this in like step-by-step articles and stuff, but for the creators out there who want to get started with it and figure it out and how it works, this will get you going. But I don't think if you reach out to Moody, how he had to help a million creators set up the virtual audio cables and routing the audio and stuff, he's not going to help you. He's going to tell you to use EVmux. So that's where we're at. Moody says you can get the overlay on your phone with EVmux. Right, but if you don't have another device to put the tips up and down, I guess you could turn on automatically skip the queue. But that's where we're at. Moody says do yourself a favor and use EVmux. And I agree. So, look, man, people like Clearwater Chad or on Twitter going like, why'd you make your system so hard to use? It really isn't. It's one overlay URL you have to copy and paste into software. The people who use StreamYard are spoiled. And I've said this since 2023. StreamYard is live streaming for people who need training wheels. Like that's why we're excited. We're really excited for this platform to branch out past the Dabbleverse, because people who use real broadcast software, this will work fine. People who know what they're doing, this will work fine. And I'm not trying to shit on people like Shmuel Buckman and Granny. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint of heart if you have no idea how anything works. That's a fact, Jack. Should the setting screen not show your first selected character and not that robot Ava? Should this setting screen not show your first selected character and not show that robot Ava? This is my setting screen. If I turn Ava off and reload this, I don't think it'll show Ava. It just shows me who I have enabled, I believe. No, I guess not. It shows you your first character, maybe. Don't worry about the sample super tip on your settings page. Don't worry about who that is. I think it's random or it's determined by who you have on or off. I'm not sure. But it's a sample. So don't worry about it. Should this setting screen not show your first selected character and not that robot Ava? Yeah, I don't know what you're trying to say. I don't know what you're saying. Yeah. This is like a sample. This is to help you configure these things, how you want it to look. So I wouldn't worry about what robot head is there. I don't know what she's saying. I don't know what she's asking. Oh, that's a fact, Jack. It used to show your first character. Now it's Ava. Oh, because we alphabetized this list recently. All these characters used to be random in where they appeared. I think they appeared in like the order they were created in. And we recently alphabetized this list. So now Ava is probably showing first for a lot of people. If you were to create a voice called Annie, it would probably appear first. And that's who would be there. I get what you're saying now. Yeah, it just in the example here, it shows the first, and it was probably different in the past, but we recently alphabetized this list. We're tweaking stuff constantly. It used to show your first character. Now it's Ava. Yeah, but Ava is your first character now. You see what I'm saying? It still shows your first character, but your first character is Ava. Probably. Create a character called AAA. And that'll be your first character. I get what you're saying now. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're making we're fixing lots of little things and tweaking stuff in the background constantly. So, like for instance, this badging, we just added this for like unplayed tips. We just added that yesterday or the day before, which is nice. That way, if you're on the played tab, you know when something new comes in. So we will be constantly adding new features and cranking out stuff. We're working on a very, very cool thing for hopefully the end of January. It'll be our first new tip type since we've created the platform. A lot of people think Super Tips is just text tips or voice tips, text tips or voice tips. We got a lot of ideas. We got a lot of stuff in the pipeline, and the update, hopefully by the end of the month, will be something really, really cool and special that I've wanted for almost 2 years, and nobody else is doing. For all the criticism we get, like, what are you, like, TTS has been around forever. This thing is going to be so much bigger than just text-to-speech voice tips. First of all, nobody does them as well as we do them. The ability to create your own voices in the back end now, the ability to, the way the head animates and it does all this stuff. Nobody's doing anything like that. But what we're coming out with, hopefully by the end of the month, it is going to be unreal. It's going to be great. It's going to be really, really cool. And people will finally start to understand that this is more than just text tips and voice tips. So, I know this made it. Look, I'm doing this on my podcast channel, so I know we have a lot of audience people watching this who aren't technical, who don't have shows. And by the way, I'm not the best technical presenter, and this isn't the best way to present it. But I wanted to get out there and just kind of explain all the settings and all the areas on the panel, how they work, and the quickest way for you to get set up. Now that we're wide open, you don't have to have an invite code to sign up for this. The quickest way for you to get set up streaming with this. So if you have zero technical knowledge and you want a StreamYard-like experience, we're just telling people to use EVmux. It couldn't be easier to do. There's a little learning curve from going from StreamYard to EVmux. EVmux works kind of like a web-based OBS in a way, only way less technical and complicated. It's a stripped-down version of kind of the scene builder that you'll find in EVmux. Where'd my EVmux go? Over here? So yeah, let me turn the camera back on. Wait. Oh, I have the wrong camera selected in EVmux. You get the point. But this makes it so easy. You literally have to cut and paste a web source layer, one line, and you build it. And this works like StreamYard. We can have 4, 5, 10 people on the screen. EVmux.com. All right? All right? Any other questions? Moody says, tell people about clicking the YouTube. Yeah, I mean, I can't because it's not going to be on these. Okay, so basically when you start, well, somebody send in a super tip to our demo. Somebody go to supertip.gg/demo and send in a super tip, and we'll show you what happens. Because it is different. It is different. I actually want a real, I know you just did it, Moody, but I want to get a real person to do it too. Because this is a new feature of the update as well. So when someone super tips like Moody just did here, he's also an admin, so it didn't charge him. You can click on this logo here. It'll either have a YouTube logo or a X logo if they're logged in. And now if you click on that, because, you know, the question we always get is that the real Moody? Is that the real Moody? So now if you click on that YouTube logo, it'll take you to the account of the person who made that tip, which is a nice feature. But if someone will go to supertip.gg/demo and just send in a tip, I'll show you how these dollar amounts work, because it's also something that's cool. So there you go. You saw it coming in real time. Ghost Crusaders TV. Is this the real Ghost Crusaders TV? Yes. Great. Now we know. But what you'll see here is $2 amounts. First of all, if it's a text tip, it'll have the keyboard like this. If it's a voice tip, it'll have the voice bubble like this. This amount will be color coded to the tip. So this tip is $5. This amount down here will show you the total that this person has given to your show over the lifetime of the show. If Ghost Crusaders TV were to send in another $5, this would say 5 and this would say 10. So that you as the creator are able to sit here and see, okay, this is an important guy. He gives me thousands of dollars. Okay, this is the first time he's ever tipped. $5, $5. So this is a running total of lifetime tips from Ghost Crusaders TV. That's why every time Goldfolds tips, I'm just like, keep it coming. Keep it coming. There you go. And this is per show. If we went and looked at Ghost Crusaders TV's tips on my show, this would have the total lifetime tips for my show. Nobody Likes Onions. But we just created this demo show. So is there a way to get old voices or from others? There is. Right now we're telling everybody to make their own. Everybody gets 3 credits. And by the way, that goes for even the people who are on our beta platform who have been using this for over a year. Tukey has 3 voice credits. Shuli has 3 voice credits. Perry Caravello has 3 voice credits. What we're working on and what we ultimately want to have is, should I be playing these? Am I supposed to play these? Hold on, I gotta go turn this audio back on. I want to play the tips. I want to play the tips on the show. How do I shrink this down? So like on mobile, I hate Safari. On mobile, it'll look more like this. The sidebar will be hidden, you know? And if you want the options for the tip, they're here. What happened? Oh, it's not a voice tip. Is there a way to get old voices from others? Yeah, so what we're working on is the ability to, when you create a voice, you'll be able to designate whether or not that voice is shareable to other people. But more importantly, it's going to be a way for you to make money off voices you create. So if you were to create Dark Tukey, or you were to create the Rocco's a master at these voices, Fish Lunch and Chode and stuff like that. Basically, he can designate whether or not he wants other shows to be able to use them. He can pick which shows he wants to be able to use them, or he can open it up to everybody. And then when you use that voice and you receive a tip from that voice, Rocco will get a cut. So think of it like a catalog of voices that you'll be able to pick from and choose to use if the creator of that voice allows you to do it. And conversely, you'll be able to make voices, and if you put a little more effort and time into them instead of just generating slop, people will want to use your voice as well. And you can you'll make a commission every time that voice is used on any channel. So Rocco could basically earn money from the Fish Lunch voice and the Chode voice. And so that's the ultimate plan. But for now, no. For now, let's just say no. Great work with the demo. You wish. This is a nightmare. It really is like wrapping my mind around doing it on 2 OBSs on 2 computers. Like it's because on the one hand, I got to run like audio and video for this show, the show you're watching. And then we're also like setting up a fake show over here. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Even I can't wrap my head around like obviously I just need that off. And then the voice tips will play.
What up, Dick Sauce?
Okay. Ah! There we go. Any other questions? Maybe I'll take this down and edit it to where it's somewhat coherent because this is a nightmare. And nobody needs to see all the flubs. It'll confuse people like me going back and like, oh, hold on, for EVmux we need to turn this off, or for Streamyard we need to turn. They'll think there's settings they need to adjust. But if you're a content creator who uses Supertip and you want to do a tutorial, it's probably a great time. It's probably a great time because there are none and nobody knows how to use it. So if you want to get some hits on a video, if you do something nice and professional, we'll probably pay you, because God knows I can't. God knows I can't. But that should be enough to get people started. And again, if you're a StreamYard user, if you're Joey C, and again, I saw you in the chat, Joey C. I'm not crapping on you. I'm just saying, if you want easy, if you're Lou to God, who I know signed up recently, I know Clearwater Chad is trying to get on board. Just get EVmux. Just get EVmux. If you're technical, you should be able to set this up with OBS and StreamYard or OBS. All right, we'll wrap this up. I'm going to edit this to make it at least a little more smooth and coherent. I'll trim out all the fat. So basically, I'm not going to be in it. Hey-o! But I wanted to put out just a little walkthrough and tutorial. Again, I think most of the valuable information is in the walkthrough of the system and the sign up. Bye-bye.